Uh, so again, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, Here we are, the Westchester Cooperative Network Open House. Um, Thank you for being here. We are very excited about the presentations that are about to happen. We hope that, well, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Delia Marks, and I am the co-founder and board member of the Westchester Cooperative Network, an organization that was formed just a few months ago. Today we are going to have Nada Kader, director of Westpac, but also co-founder with me of the Westchester Cooperative Network, telling you about us, about our organization. After that, we are going to have a wonderful panel of speakers, each one with their own experience in worker cooperatives. I'm going to just tell their names: Mayberry Davis, Mackenzie Jones, and Natividad Aguilar, who are going to share with us their experience and their knowledge about cooperatives. We're hoping that we're going to be able to cover what are worker cooperatives, what are the benefits of worker cooperatives for the workers and for the communities, what are the difficulties and the problems that may arise, how to get started. How to get started with a worker cooperative, and of course the personal experience of each one of our panelists today. At the very end, we're going to open up the forum for your questions, but at any point, by all means, please write your question in the chat, and we are going to do our best to address all the questions that may arise from the audience. Okay? So I give the floor to my friend and colleague, Nada, to describe then what the Westchester Cooperative is all about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delia, and welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining this afternoon's Westchester Cooperative Network Open House. Some of you may be familiar, but basically, worker cooperatives are values-driven businesses that put worker and community benefit at the core of their purpose. So in contrast with other types of businesses, workers at worker cooperatives, they participate in the profits, in the oversight, and usually the management of the business as well. And they use democratic practices. The workers in a cooperative own the majority of equity in the business, and they control the voting shares. So that's in a nutshell. Also, very importantly for us, because we're members of a social justice community in Westchester County, this model of organizing a business has proven to be an effective tool for creating and maintaining sustainable, dignified jobs, which is a big part of our purpose, generating wealth, especially in communities that have been deprived of generating wealth and also transferring wealth across generations, specifically on this in the United States of America with our history. Cooperatives can improve the quality of life for workers, and they promote community economic development, particularly for people who lack access to business ownership or other options. So as Delia said, Delia really has been the prime leader in the Westchester Cooperative Network. We're very proud of her. She's from Argentina. And as you know, not in 2 decades ago, there was a serious crisis in Argentina where a lot of the big capitalists who owned factories, they took their money out of Argentina almost overnight, and all the workers in these factories were left without a source of livelihood. So they recuperated factories, and that, you know, was a very important movement in the global history of worker-owned cooperatives. And Delia actually, she has been organizing with Global Exchange and with Westpac tours, social justice tours of Buenos Aires. She's leading one in November where you can actually see and talk to some of these workers who took over the factories that that were abandoned by their owners. And Delia is also very active in many other groups. So we thank Delia for her leadership in this. We also have Gonzalo Cruz here with us today. He's a board member. Jeff Smith is a board member of the Westchester Cooperative Network. Excuse me. Jeff Monroe from Mount Vernon is a member of the board of the Worker Cooperative Network. Noelle Colaneri as well. And also Artemis, who is here, and she's hosting the Zoom, has recently been hired by the Westchester Cooperative Network. So without further ado, I will pass it back to you, Delia.
Thank you, Nara. Thank you so much. And thank you for passing the ad about the tour to Argentina. Yes, indeed, in November, we are going to Argentina to visit with the cooperatives there. So send me an email if you're interested. But here we are talking about the cooperatives here in New York State and here in the US. So please, here we have Mayberry Davis, Mackenzie Jones, and Natividad Aguilar, who are part of our panelists, and I'm going to ask them to please introduce themselves. So Mackenzie, would you please go first?
Yes, Delia, thank you so much for having me here today. Please all pardon my voice, and if I need to step away for a moment, I'm feeling a little under the weather, but happy to rally for this wonderful occasion. My name is Mackenzie Jones, and I use she, her pronouns, and I live upstate in Ithaca, New York. And I've been in Ithaca for about 13 years and have really strengthened my love and devotion to cooperatives during that time. I think I've always been someone who felt on the outside of capitalist society, even as a child without language around alternatives. I've cared very much for the power of people and for solidarity. And I think that part of my path towards cooperatives was influenced a lot by being a young parent and engaging in the barter and trade economy with other young parents. And that really gave me a sense of the power of people to meet their own needs. And I've been involved with several different types of cooperatives, including a biodiesel cooperative in Ithaca. We collected waste vegetable oil from restaurants and put it into our diesel engines to run clean fuel. I'm a founding member of a housing cooperative in Ithaca that I still live in today. I'm a working member of an internationally worker-owned tech cooperative called Collab, and we do design and website development for the cooperative community. And one of our greatest success stories is around a New York City-based cooperative called Up and Go, which is made up of many cleaners, mostly immigrant women, who banded together with multi-stakeholder support to form a cooperative. And we've seen a lot of growth in their business and for them as people in their own livelihoods. I also have a nonprofit that I manage in Ithaca called The Worker Place, and I help to develop co-ops. I really believe that cooperatives are a very tangible way towards a solidarity economy. There have been moments in my life when I've thought that there's no way for us to escape the exploitative and extractive nature of capitalism. But when I see it in contrast to the solidarity economy, I think that we really can. We do have a lot of power to make our own decisions as workers, to build our own wealth and power as workers, and to come together and to still make profit and to have good livelihoods, but to not do so at the sake of oppressing other people. So I'll leave it at that. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Really wonderful to meet you all. And I hope to continue collaborating with Westchester Cooperative Network.
Thank you, Mackenzie, and welcome. Mary, would you want to be next, please?
Awesome. Thanks, Mackenzie, for that awesome introduction. So my name is Mabry Davis. I'm a father. I'm a community organizer. I'm a motivator. We have to found the Financial Literacy Boot Camp, where we work with kids in West Virginia to understand the psychology of money and the basics of finances, to plant the seeds of collective community wealth and abundance. And I also serve as an adjunct professor of accounting at a local HBCU, West Virginia State University. But my primary role is the director of lending with New Economy Works West Virginia, where our goal is to support and finance self-governing cooperative businesses here in West Virginia. So our values, we believe in building cooperative democratic ownership within communities, productive sustainability, maximizing community benefit, and radical inclusion and non-extraction. And that's because, so much of the financial capital that's available in the economy is really extractive, and it serves to take out of communities. So through the Seed Commons Network and New West Virginia, we do it the complete opposite way. We go into community. We are not go into communities. We are part of communities already, and we spread economic democracy and then access to capital for anyone who wants to develop a cooperative business. And so, I'm just appreciative of this call because, I came into cooperatives a lot later in life. I didn't get involved into cooperatives until I was, I'm 38 now. I was well out of college, had already graduated, already pursued a master's degree and a professional certification as a certified public accountant, and I hadn't even heard about cooperatives yet. And this is like 2015, 2016, when I got off my bum and started like organizing people to vote and stuff. I sort of ran into cooperatives, and then I realized that all the education that I had actually fit somewhere, and that I could, use my education and background in accounting to help spread, wealth within communities and business ownership. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Mabry. Thank you so much. And welcome. And Natividad. Natividad, I'm going to speak in Spanish. Natividad, por favor, ¿se podría presentar usted misma?
Sí, hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Natividad Aguilar Bruno de la Cooperativa Briley Washington Heights. Y estoy...
Good afternoon. My name is Natividad Aguilar, and I am a member of Brightly, a cooperative in New York City. Sí, continúe, Natividad, por favor.
Sí, gracias. Estoy muy emocionada de estar aquí y presentar que la cooperativa es un gran, posibilidades que trae para emprender más, ¿verdad? De ser independientes y generar más ingresos para nuestras familias, ya que es una posibilidad de trabajar como dueñas trabajadoras y traer el 95% de las ganancias a la familia.
So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to be part of a cooperative that allows us to bring back 95% of the earnings back to our families and allow us to be totally independent and be owners of our own businesses. Continúe, Nativa.
Sí, es todo.
Continúe.
Sí, sí, aparte de eso tenemos muchas ventajas, ¿verdad? En que tenemos posibilidad de poner nuestro propio tiempo, disponibilidad, ya que no somos como una compañía regular que te ofrecen 15 mejor la hora y muchas veces no son pagadas cuando trabajamos horas extras. Realmente eso ha traído beneficio a nuestra cooperativa porque tenemos la ganancia, a lo mejor nos pagan 35 a más la hora. Entonces estamos muy emocionadas de estar en un cooperativismo porque ahí damos valor a nuestro valor más que nada, ¿verdad? A tener más conciencia en lo que estamos haciendo y tenernos valor también como nosotros como personas. Gracias.
Okay, I'm going to try to translate. So, we are very happy to be part of a cooperative because we can really dispose of our time in a much more controlled way. And we're getting paid much more for what our work. We used to work very long hours and extra hours and not get paid for them, but now we are earning up to $35 an hour, and that's a lot of money that we can bring back to our families. And so this allows us to be independent and not be part of a big company that would decide when you have to go to work or not. We can decide our own time schedule. Continúe, Natividad.
Sí. También los beneficios para los trabajadores, que bueno, ya había comentado que 95% del dinero va ganado para las miembros. También ponemos disponibilidad de nuestro tiempo y pasamos tiempo con nuestra familia, ayudamos a más mujeres que sean independientes y crecer en familia. Y por ende trabajamos en los 4 condados, así que el dinero queda en la comunidad y dejamos saber a nuestros clientes que somos dueñas trabajadoras y que haremos lo mejor que está en nuestras manos.
So as I was saying before, we are free and independent. We can control the time that we work. We can be longer periods with our families. I can support and encourage other women to become independent. And as I was saying before, 95% of the money stays with the worker owners. And we are in 4 counties in the city, so the money stays locally and creates the wealth locally. So, thank you. Muchas gracias, Natividad. Gracias por venir y gracias por participar.
Muchas gracias.
So yes, so we are talking about all the benefits of a cooperative. Mackenzie, you seem to have experience in how to get one started. So how do you do that?
That's a wonderful question, and I get asked that a lot. And there are a few really important components to starting a cooperative. One, of course, is that you're starting a business. So there are a lot of things that are required for starting any type of business, like understanding who your audience is, what your service or product are, the value that you'll bring to your customers, excuse me, and having a good financial projection, a good business plan, a marketing plan, all of those things. In addition, what's really important when starting a cooperative is building governance into the business. And so determining what the pathway is for people who work there to become owning members of the business. and that involves some legal documents and some non-legal documents. I know that someone submitted a question ahead of time, so I'll touch a little bit upon some of the documentation that's required. Any business that is starting as a cooperative would need to file articles of incorporation with the state that they're in. Sometimes because we still don't have cooperative corporation law in all states, that might mean incorporating in a different state. It might mean going with a different type of entity, but Cooperative corporations are an option. Limited cooperative alliances are an option. Many people start businesses as partnerships or limited liability companies or corporations and function cooperatively. So incorporating legally as a business is important. And as part of that with the co-op, there's a document called the bylaws. And those are the orienting document for any cooperative that spell out what the pathway to membership is, who votes, on what types of things they vote. Cooperatives always have boards of directors, and those might be made up of people who are within the cooperative as well as people who are not members of the cooperative, depending on the goals of that particular business. So the bylaws are things that are worked together on with people who are, starting the business together. Of course, there might be some element of recruitment, hiring and recruiting other people who want to be part of the cooperative. And then there are other types of operating agreements like policies and practices that the business will undertake. One of the most important things to come up with when starting a cooperative is a decision-making process. I really like a matrix or a chart that shows many different types of decisions a business might make, like moving locations or adding a new product or hiring or firing a member, and outlining at the very beginning who among the membership or the board of directors makes those decisions and how and when. Ultimately, in a cooperative, there should always be checks and balances in place among bodies that have power. There are governing bodies in a cooperative that really steer the strategy and the vision of the business. And then there are management bodies that handle day-to-day operations. And many of us are familiar with management bodies because we've worked in places where we have managers, or maybe we are managers. But what's different within a cooperative is that ultimately the board of directors as a governing body, managers, they're all held accountable to the membership because the membership elects those people or chooses those people. The membership votes on big decisions that are made by those bodies. And I think that while I would like to say that so many cooperatives really have begun with as part of grassroots organizing and efforts, it is not legally very simple yet for people to start cooperatives. And so that's why people like me exist who are cooperative developers. I understand the process. I'm familiar with some of the support networks that are required, like cooperative lawyers and cooperative financiers. Not all banks and not all lawyers are familiar with cooperative finances or legalities. So it's important to build a support network that can really understand the goals and the mission of the co-op. And there is a lot of effort to make it easier and more affordable for people to start cooperatives, whether those be through technical platforms or networks like Westchester Cooperative Network. There are some key points that everyone has to touch upon when starting a co-op. And it can be a little difficult at times to know where to start, but there, as part of the growing movement, of course, there are more and more people who are willing to lend a hand. And there's more and more advocacy happening also at state levels, particularly in New York, in this region, and federally, to get more cooperative friendly laws in place to make it easier to finance cooperatives, all these things. So I'll leave it at that. We could get into many specifics. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm very happy to talk more about starting co-ops. But I would say the biggest thing to keep in mind is that building governance and equitable decision-making into the business is very important from the beginning.
And it's always one worker, one vote, right?
One worker, one vote. Yep. No one gets more than one share. No one can own more than anyone else in the company, which is different. So very different. Yeah.
That's a very important distinction, indeed. Yes. So it's not that easy, right? May vary, but on the other side, there are, they say that they build wealth, and you are on the finances side of the structure. So how would you say that community wealth would be generated by cooperatives?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you know, the best way to build wealth in America, as we know, is through business ownership, right? Like, there's no way around that. But the way that business is done in America, primarily, the wealth goes to a few people who own the company, while every one of us that are in here, or the workers that are in there helping to generate that wealth, are not getting a big enough share or a big enough cut of that. So through a cooperative business model, it's built in from the foundation that when the business is successful, the workers are going to retain and keep more of that wealth. So that's the way that it that it builds wealth in the community, because those profits are not being dispersed out to a handful of people that may be not living in the community. It's the people that are living and working there are making the decisions about those profits, and it's staying in the community. And over time, cooperatives, when done properly, they last longer. And so that in and of itself keeps more wealth in the community. So, but it's, we have to create business enterprises. Profits lead to wealth, and the more co-ops we have, the more profits we'll have staying in local communities, which by default will have higher wealth. So.
So, but also an existing small business, say that the owner wants to retire, right, can be converted into a cooperative by selling his or her business to the workers, right?
Yes, and that is actually one of the areas of financing our financial cooperative Seed Commons focuses in, is those conversions, because oftentimes these legacy businesses, they're not, they may have built a really great business, but there's nobody to take it over, right? Maybe, the kids in the family or whoever in the family isn't ready to do it. And without selling it to the workers, then the business will fail or go out of business. I think it's something like 20% of like legacy businesses survive, right? So that's like 80% of businesses are like failing. And so if we can figure out ways to get the training and education and financing into the hands of workers to take over and continue working in and buying these businesses, that will keep more wealth in the communities. It could be a huge negative economic impact if a business that has been around for 20, 30 years just suddenly goes away, and we have an opportunity through the cooperative movement to train this business model and this way of doing business, and directing it people who provide financing specifically for this, like CDFIs, like Shared Capital or the Seed Commons Network, that specifically only finance cooperative business models, so yeah.
So that's another possibility of keeping wealth in the community, correct?
Yes, that's another way of keeping wealth in the community, is just the workers behind the business from folks who are retiring or getting ready to give their businesses up.
Yeah, I understand that there is what they call a silver tsunami of all the baby boomers that are about to retire, and who's, instead of selling it to a big corporation, they can sell it to the workers of their own business, right?
Yes, and that's why it's so important for like the Westchester Cooperative Network, is to get the message out that this is an option, right? Like, this is an option, and it's proven to be a better option. More of the wealth stays here and not to some folks that are already wealthy with businesses all over the place.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But there might be quite a number of roadblocks, right, Mackenzie? There are things that may not go that well. What kind of things did you face in your experience?
Yeah, I think the greatest hurdle for co-ops is often capital and getting financing. And that's in part because typical venture capitalists or lenders really want to see a strong return on their investment, but co-ops are intended to create wealth internally among workers. And so they're not great models for the ways that we generally borrow money. But of course, there's also power in numbers, and people coming together to pool their resources have had a lot of great success starting cooperatives. And as Mavry said, there are many growing all the time institutions that are helping to fund co-ops.
So let me just interrupt you for just 1 minute, to tell everyone that the Westchester Cooperative Network is offering up to a $10,000 grant to local groups that are willing to start a cooperative here in Westchester County. So, I mean, I could not not say that.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing offer. And I hope that many people come forward to take advantage of that. I think that a lot of co-ops have relied on that type of philanthropy in the past. And so we're really trying to figure out how cooperatives can become more sustainable financially on their own. Other hurdles and like roadblocks are that democratic decision-making can be very difficult and very slow. I do want to challenge the notion that business has to move quickly. I think that we are, our capitalist structure really suggests that we have to make decisions quickly, we have to make money quickly, we have to get a return on our investment quickly. Similar to food, we know that slow food is healthier for us than fast food. So I think slow business and slow decision making can really be a lot healthier for us than fast business. But that can be that can just be a barrier. It can take a long time to make decisions in a cooperative, especially at the very beginning. The housing cooperative that I'm in, we probably spent 4 years financing, creating our documents, recruiting families. It wasn't, it's not something that everybody has the privilege to be able to do, outside of their work and family responsibilities. And then I guess also, like I said before, some other roadblocks are that while co-ops have been around in this country for many, many years, particularly in the agricultural field and also as part of the Black liberation movement post-Civil War, they're still seen as something radical. So there are a lot of societal perspectives that I think that we're butting up against,
Overcome. Yeah.
And so I think that there's a cultural shift that is happening and still needs to happen. And when we know that we have, I want to say it's between 500 and 600 functional worker-owned cooperatives in the country right now, compared to how many, standard businesses, we're definitely still in the minority. So just coming up against like a culture and systems that are not really designed to support grassroots efforts or people power, that's a really big stumbling block. But I think once we start having that cultural shift, which we're seeing already, then policies and financing and laws are going to continue to there will be a ripple effect, and things I think will become less and less difficult. But it's taking a lot of work of many people to create those blueprints for co-ops to be successful right now in the States.
Yeah. On the other side, in New York City, there was this fund that was created in 2015. So that's where local governments can come in and support the worker cooperative movement by creating funds like the one in New York City, because since then, New York City became really a very rich ecosystem of worker cooperatives, not just the worker cooperatives themselves, but also the organizations that support them. So that is a role for local governments that could help in that direction. So, Natividad, ¿cómo le cambió la vida I'm asking Natividad, how did it change her life? Uh,
Sí, más que nada me cambió desde que llegué a la cooperativa. Paso más tiempo con mi familia, puedo poner disponibilidad de mi tiempo. Realmente fueron muchos beneficios. Yo no sabía computación, aquí vine a aprender cómo guardar los documentos por Google Drive, Google Documentos. O sea, fueron varios beneficios. Realmente yo vengo del estado de un pueblo de Guerrero, de México, entonces siento que eso fue gran. Nunca pensé tener mi propio negocio aquí en este país, pero fueron, o sea, era algo que yo lo veía como muy lejano, pero gracias a Dios, cuando encontré la cooperativa, realmente fue algo que nunca pensé, pero ahora como estoy pasando más tiempo con mi familia, gano un poco más el tiempo, o sea, ya no trabajo por hora, sino por limpieza, fueron grandes beneficios. Disculpa, fui muy largo, gracias.
Está bien. So it changed my life radically. I come from a small town in Mexico called Guerrero, and I would have never thought in my entire life that I could become the owner of a business like I am now. And I can definitely spend much more time with my family. I can be with them. I can be as the support that they need. I can schedule my own hours. I don't work by the hour. I work by the cleaning service. So I never thought that I was going to be able to learn so much and learn about the technical stuff. I know now how to save my documents and use the computer, something that I would have never dreamed about in my native country. So thank you. Gracias. Maverick, how did it change your life?
You know, Cooperative have changed my life so much because, you know, before I ran into the Seed Commons Network, which is the first cooperative I've ever been a part of, which is a financial cooperative, I went to work every day and I felt no purpose. There was no willingness to want to deal with any of my shortcomings as a worker. You know, no real willingness to train me or allow me to be involved in the decisions like that were going to be made. And then I ran into like the Seed Commons Network, and then it was just an open door of just like continuous training and education. You know, people accepting you for who you are and like the value that you bring to the table and willing to work with you to get to the next phase instead of trying to tear you down. You know, in the general economy, there's a lot of people like just trying to tear each other down and you know, and fight against each other. Whereas in the cooperative movement, it's more about working together with people and uplifting and moving forward together towards a higher purpose or something. So, you know, that's what I needed, right? And then so fast forward to today, I get like my job is literally to help others find this through co-op development. So as a project manager with Seed Commons, we were able to get like a worker-owned restaurant started here in Charleston, West Virginia, first Black-owned co-op restaurant. You know, got them a business that had been denied for grants and loans back to back several times. We were able to get them 6 figures in financing to get them off the ground and get them going, you know, getting large pieces of equipment like walk-in refrigerators, you know, something huge in the restaurant industry to be able to control your costs and be able to get to the point of profitability. You know, so just being able to be a part of that. Like it was Cooperative that gave me the ability to be a part of something that gives that to others in my community, which again, like I said, that was something I needed to be able to use my accounting and CPA powers to do good for people and not just make money for people who didn't necessarily care about other people. You know, so I get to do all the things that I went to school for, but do it in a way that not only changes my life, but changes the lives of others around me.
That's great. That's great, Mary. Thank you. Thank you. Mackenzie, in just a few more minutes, could you please share how it changed your life? If, because it seems like you started already with cooperatives from a very young age.
Right. Well, I agree with Mavry in the sense of purpose that I have working within cooperatives as a member and supporting cooperatives as a developer. I feel like the cooperative movement is building justice. There's no way around it. So I think that is just, justice is life-changing for people when we experience like growing our own wealth and power. And I'll offer a statistic that I always find very valuable in discussing the benefits of cooperatives. So every year, the US Federation of Worker Cooperatives and their research arm, the Democracy at Work Institute, put out a state of the cooperative sector report. Those are two great resources. Those organizations are wonderful resources for the cooperative movement. And this state of the sector report often reports on how many co-ops there are, how many people are employed within those co-ops and other facts like that. And one thing that is consistent is that the highest paid worker in a cooperative on average makes no more than twice the lowest paid worker on average in a cooperative. So if someone is making $35 an hour or $35,000 a year, there is no owner making more than $70 an hour or $75,000 a year. Sorry, 70. This is in contrast to other businesses. Forbes and other watchers of the capitalist market will also report the average pay ratio between highest and lowest paid workers in a typical company in the United States is 350. It's astronomical, right? So I think just that alone, the ability for people to feel valued through their wages, to make decisions about their wages and how much they are paying, the transparency of finances within a cooperative, those things are life-changing and really empowering people to be able to make decisions for their lives, meet the needs of their family, and to have purpose. I think also just feeling part of something bigger is really important. So many of us have had experiences at work where we're just like answering to someone else and we feel kind of like a cog in the machine that serves elsewhere. I think it's really valuable, almost hard to put into words how important it is for people to be able to feel that sense of ownership over their lives and their work. For many people, work is how we spend a majority of our time. And
Absolutely.
so if we're feeling empowered at work, if we have a democratic workplace, if we're feeling as if our financial needs are met, that creates so much more well-being for people than what we see when people don't have a lot of say in what happens at work, and they're doing working so that someone else can make money. It really makes a huge difference, I think, in many ways. And I've seen it play out in multiple different, it's different for everybody, but it's monumental, I think, the shift towards worker ownership.
Wonderful. Thank you. So let me say to all, thank you. Thank you so much for participating in this. But before we open it up to the questions from the audience, so please write it on the chat, or if not, raise your hand and we'll call on you. I just wanted to say a few words about the Westchester Cooperative Network. As Nada was saying before, we are here in Westchester County. We have a wonderful website, which is westchestercooperative.net. We invite you to visit it to see all the resources that are available. I was telling before, especially in New York City, which is right next door to us, there is an extraordinary group of organizations that support worker cooperatives in many aspects, legal, business, training, bookkeeping, you name it. And we are here in Westchester trying to make these connections. So if a group of people come forward to us, we try to connect them with these organizations, help them. We offer this grant, seed money to get them started. We are hoping that we're going to have many worker cooperatives in this county of ours, and we also, of course, need to thank the Elias Foundation, who is our supporter in this endeavor. So thank you for this opportunity to try to spread this kind of this work and this possibility, make people understand that this is an alternative, and it's a viable and available alternative to all. So please raise your hand, or if you have any questions, we have 10 minutes open still to questions from the audience.
Great. If I could ask a question, this was a wonderful panel and an excellent discussion. I'm very grateful. I just want to follow up on something that Mackenzie mentioned about the cultural resistance in American society to worker-owned cooperatives. And I want to share very briefly an experience I had and ask for advice of our three panelists. I was recently interviewed on the radio, and I started to talk about the Westchester Cooperative Network, that we are a network in Westchester County, New York, that is actively promoting the creation of worker-owned cooperative businesses. And as soon as I said that, without being given the chance to say anything else, one of the co-hosts immediately reacted by saying, "That's communism." And we saw how that worked. And so what I realized is that I didn't have my talking points down, and I had very little time. And I started to talk about how in history, when we look at the experiment countries had with so-called communism, there were very centralized economic systems where the central government was making decisions for the entire country, economic decisions. But what I'd like to hear from you is, but then I gave a concrete example in Westchester County of how a big corporation tried to come in and basically push out 20 small family-owned businesses by very predatory practices. But just, to sort of tell us, how do you handle that when someone tells you that, oh, this is communism? And I have a feeling that at least half the population in the United States think that when I say worker-owned business, they think I'm trying to promote communism. How do we deal with that?
Mackenzie, Mayberry, anyone?
Yeah, well, I think you're right that education is so important, and of ourselves in the movement, so that we can educate others. And coming up with those talking points is really important. I see a comment here. Chris is saying that communism usually just had a farce of, cooperativism. That's probably very true. I think it's also important to, while they are very wedded, I think it's important to separate like the political space from the economic space. Worker-owned cooperatives can be very political in nature, but we are not proposing to change the way that everyone in our country like interacts politically, I guess. We're really hoping for a different kind of economy that is more pluralistic and based in based in support and justice. And, I think we could easily point to communism not necessarily serving those needs for people either. It's something very different. That isn't to say that worker-owned cooperatives can't exist within different political structures. I think worker-owned cooperatives can exist in a communist structure or in a democratic republic, or it's something that's more socialist in nature. I think part of it is like removing that deep embedded connection between our economics and our political systems, I think, which is not an easy task, of course. I don't know, Mavry, do you have things to add to that? I'm
No.
feeling similarly to you, Nada, that it is a hard point to discuss if you don't feel prepared.
I mean, that's very eloquently put, and like I agree with you 100%. I'm just thinking that the way I deal with that is, it's so true, like to what you said, Mackenzie, it's education. I would venture to say that many people that say, well, that's communism, they really don't understand what communism is either, right? So it's, I might respond to that by asking them more questions. Well, what is communism to you? And then maybe roll that into questions like, would you like to make or have a say in decisions in your workplace? Would you like to have a say in where profits are going? And just start asking questions and sort of getting people to really expound on, what it would be like. Most people will not say, if you had a chance to decide where the profits that McDonald's is making went, and you could direct some of that into your own pocket, would you not want that opportunity, right? Most people are not going to say no, right? So to some extent, then that gets them to saying, well, what is this cooperative stuff? So how can I do it? And so it's just a matter of education and not getting, bent out of shape over people mischaracterizing like what it is we're doing, and being excited about what we're doing, and being proud to say what it is, and not shrinking because of what somebody of how somebody may perceive it. That's a perfect opportunity to tell them and demonstrate and show them what it really is. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you both very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a question in the chat, but whoops, it went up. Referring to support people who are incarcerated or who have been incarcerated. Absolutely. Yes. There's absolutely yes. And but not in Illinois. Here in Westchester County, absolutely yes. But we are not equipped or ready to go beyond, not at this point. But is there any other question or comment from the audience? Raise your hand or put it on the chat.
Someone's asking how many functioning cooperatives are active in Westchester County.
Oh, we are hoping that we're going to have many. Right now, that we know, there is none. And that's one of the reasons why we are so eager to talk about this possibility here in Westchester, because even though Westchester has, people think of Westchester as a rich county, that is not quite the case. And there are many areas and pockets in the county that have great need of local wealth creation and of possibilities for workers to become owners of their own business.
We have had food cooperatives, but for a range of reasons, they fell apart in the 1990s.
Yes, there is, there is one upcoming food co-op combined with worker co-op in Kingston. That's a little bit further up from Westchester, but they are, there, as I was saying, there are many, I think there are 150 worker cooperatives in New York City, but I'm not 100% sure about that number. I don't have it right in front of me. But again, that was thanks to this fund that was created by the city council in 2015. It started, I think it was $1 million, and nowadays it's almost 4 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Delia, there's a question from Rosanna with the Community Resource Center. What's the best way to prepare the community to be open to the cooperative system?
Okay, our attempt is educating and trying to promote the idea, but Mayberry, Mackenzie, please.
And Natividad is back on as well.
Oh, she came back? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see her. I'm sorry.
I can speak from what we're doing here locally in West Virginia, in Charleston, West Virginia, because there's not a robust co-op culture or economy. So we started by doing wide, like public facing type, like here come co-op 101, come learn about co-ops, which I think is still okay, but that's not really going to get the type of buy-in or support we need. So now what we're doing is really pouring in and focusing into growing a co-op locally that can then take and promote and propel that story out and to bring people in that way. Now, along the way, just like tonight, I invited people from my community to come to this call and to listen. I don't know how many people actually signed on, but if there's opportunities to do co-op one-on-one or for you to learn about co-ops, of course, we're offering that, but primarily we're focusing on finding a small group of folks that really want buy in to co-ops and really want to start that and get that up and going, and through the development of that cooperative, draw others in through that. You got to show people better than you can tell them, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Well, I'd like to say also that part of our effort at the Westchester Cooperative Network, we are willing to go to organizations, to groups, especially service organizations. We did that already with the Y and Catholic Charities and other organizations, where we do a presentation. So we talk about, like a co-op 101. So we tell them about, what are cooperatives, the different types, the benefits, the difficulties, and how to get started. So we do that in English and in Spanish. So please contact us, and we're happy to come to offer that presentation to your organization. Mackenzie, you wanted to say something too? I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Just building off of what Mayberry said so eloquently about, building proof of concepts, being the proof. Building cooperative infrastructure is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It will take a long time. And so I think that's part of the perception that we have to have as we continue building it and preparing communities, is to just know that it's a long, slow road, and we're all in it together.
Okay, with that, I want to be very respectful of people's time. It's 1 p.m. So I want to thank you all. Thank you, the panelists, Mackenzie, Mayberry, Natividad. Gracias por haber venido. Thank you so much, Nara. Thank you always, and Demis, thank you for your backstage help. And thank you all for coming and for helping us to promote these ideas. And we are recording this presentation. So if you know of anybody that would like to get in contact with us, the email address is delia@westchestercooperative.net, nada@westchestercooperative.net, gonzalo@westchestercooperative.net, and so forth. So you can reach us. You can check our email. You can please invite us to give presentations to your organizations. And remember, we still have this up to $10,000 grant available for whoever would, apply to get it. So, Nara, any other words?
No, I think this was really wonderful. Working on implementing worker-owned cooperatives is such inspiring work, and we're in such challenging times between military conflicts and climate extremism and pandemics. When we talk and work for implementing worker cooperatives, it gives us a sense of hope. Worker cooperatives are the future, and it's not just a model of a business, but we believe in Westchester that worker-owned cooperatives will actually help transform this economic system to make it more racially equitable, and also to repair some of the harms that have been done to communities across this continent and across the world. So this is really important work for us.
So thank you all, and hope to hear from you soon. And so with this, we stop recording, and if anybody wants to stay a little